Good evening, everyone. We start today the fifth class of our series on finance and business English for legal and business professionals. And I'm very glad to welcome our wonderful teacher, Dr. Charles Hall, Associate Professor of Applied Linguistics. And today the topic of our class is money, the language of banking, and we're going to continue talking about money with you. So I'm giving the floor to Charles.
Thank you so much, Sophia. I'd like to welcome you all, and I hope you were here 2 weeks ago when we started our discussion of banking. Today, we're going to be talking more about banking, but we're going to focus on international banking. Now, that's a beautiful word, international banking. That just sounds like lots of money and lots of money. But I was just in Berlin, and believe me, my idea of international banking is about 50 euros. So it doesn't have to be a lot of money to be international. I hope you remembered that you can join us at vvox.app. That's not really an app. Just go there, log in, put in this ID number, and you'll be able to participate in the polling options we have. In fact, we have one right away. After I say thank you very much to our two hosts, and we have a special guest tonight too. Okay, I want to say thank you to Jennifer Uhler, who is the RELO, Regional English Language Officer for Russia. And I, of course, want to thank Sophia, I thought she was going to be the hostess, but she's now turned out to be the lead presenter in all of these. These series would not be possible without Sophia and her wonderful companion, Roman, who takes care of the technical. Thank you, Roman. Thank you, Sophia. But we also have a special guest, Tamrika, who works with the, where'd she go? There, hi, Tamrika.
Hello, Charles, and hello, Sophia, and hello, everybody else out there.
Maybe many of you might know Tamrika. Sophia, were you going to say something? I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No. I just wanted to wave to Tamrika. We haven't seen actually each other already today, but I'm extremely grateful to her because she is the main support for our project together with Jennifer. So she is the key person, and we are very happy and a little bit nervous with Charles that she is with us tonight. I am. I am actually.
I am too. Oh, Tamrika's a horrible, mean person. Look at her.
Nothing terrifies Charles. We are so happy in our office to support this project. We know it's fun, it's fantastic. I've listened to some sessions, but this is the first time I'm here live. So I'm excited to enjoy it. And you guys are very lucky to have Charles Hall as your instructor.
Yes,
and the only, so lucky to, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to say that because of some technical stuff, so if Tamrika, you are saying that you and Charles, you will be kind of interchanging in the pictures. So actually on screen, Tamrika, you are called now Dr. Charles Hall, but that's okay, we understand that.
I'll take it. It's okay with me, yeah.
Now, I get the better, if you call me Tamrika, I get the better end of that deal. All right, so let's start with one poll. Let's see if this works tonight. We couldn't get this to work last week, but let's try now. So what's the first thing you think of when you hear the word international banking? Okay, I'm actually doing this too, and my response is, let's see.
Okay, so yes, and everyone, so in order to vote, you can see up on the screen in the top right corner, there is vvox.app. So you can just, it's not an application, you don't have to download it. You just print www.vvox.app, and then you just insert over there the ID number. So 159557541. So, and then you are in the presentation. You just stay there. Do not please close the window. So when there are more answers and more questions, you will be able just to continue voting. So it's very convenient. It's very convenient.
Oh, it's very.
Yes, we love this.
Right. So we're almost ready. So now let's see. So this just gives us an idea of what people think about. So let's see, we've got 16 people. Let's wait just one more second. So Sophia, what did you think of when you heard international banking?
Oh, I've typed in big money.
You mean my
Because
50 euros?
for me, international banking is related to some huge corporation, some overseas like McDonald's, or some big transactions when some huge companies are buying money. So it's not like more personal. To me, it's all about business when we speak about international banking, honestly.
That's what most people think of when they think of international banking. But we'll see that it's actually really important to even small businessmen, even individuals, when we send money around the world. As you know, I work in, oh, look at this. Money was Switzerland. Look at what we've got here. Who typed in 2008 crisis? Yes, I lost a lot of money there. Thank you very much. Laundry. Ooh, you got a fat banker. Were you looking at me when you typed that? Okay, and we've got SWIFT, exchange rates, trade. Oh, these are excellent words. Oh, I like the money hanging down from money. It's all over. Oh, HSBC. Well, we're going to talk about HSBC tonight. That's interesting. So this word cloud shows us that we all have slightly different ideas, but that we're all aware of what it means. Well, international banking, of course, is a continuation of something that started thousands of years ago with money changers. When we first finally got coins about 3,000 years ago, every little country, every little city made their own coins. And if you went from one place to another, you often had to go to a money changer, and they would exchange your coins for the local coins. And many of you, I don't know if you've ever read much, or maybe this is a cultural issue, but there's a very famous scene in European history, and it's not actually in European history, but it's important in European history of art and of religion, about money changers. Anybody guess what it is?
No, I'm absolutely not in there, but we can ask our
See if
our
anybody,
participants.
what is the
to
most
write.
famous event in Western and Middle Eastern history involving money changes in the last 2,000 years?
Oh, well, that's a big question.
That's a big question. But in fact, we even have something, I think it's Russian. I couldn't read it. I'm very illiterate. Okay, but let's see. Here's what it is. It's Jesus.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Remember?
Totally.
Yes. Right. There were the money changers in the temple, and Jesus drove them away. And this is a Russian icon. So money changers have been for thousands of years what many of you wrote, but you have made it a den of thieves. And indeed, that's what many people think international banking is. They think that it's often money laundering, fraud, all sorts of stuff. We will talk about that because that's always fun. Well, the real question then we ask, as I've already said, how do I get my money from here to there? Well, here we have a world. It's a huge world. And one of the most important people in our history who traveled the world, or what we thought of as the world back then, was Marco Polo. And Marco Polo went all the way to China. He was a rich Venetian merchant. And I always wondered, how did he carry enough stuff to pay for his long, long trip? I never figured it out. But you know that Marco Polo saw one of the first important developments in international banking, and that was paper money. When Marco Polo went to China, the Chinese had already invented paper money, and he was so astonished. He wrote back to Venice, they have little pieces of paper that weigh nothing but have enormous value. And so that's where we're going. So think of this. We've gone from hard silver, gold coins to paper, to electronic, to many things. Well, if you say bank, many people think World Bank. Now, I hope most of you know that the World Bank isn't really a bank, at least not for us. And this is exactly what Sophie was talking about, is that this is big issues. The World Bank is actually a government-to-government organization. and it makes loans and grants. Now, the difference between a loan and a grant is a loan you have to pay back, and a grant is sort of like a gift. Okay, so the World Bank makes loans and grants to low-income countries and middle-income countries when they have something needed. To show how much the world has changed, the first loan that the World Bank ever made was to France in the mid-1940s, when France was still a disaster after World War II. So it's changed. So the World Bank is not really a World Bank. It's for grants and loans for poor and not so poor countries. And it reminds us of the bigger issues, the governmental issues that are involved in international trade. Does anybody recognize this picture? This is a very, very famous picture in American history. Not this particular picture, this idea. Do you know what it is, Sophia?
Yes, it's that the island of Manhattan was purchased for some beads made out of glass, and like the total value of them was like $15 or something, or $25, something like that. So, but for Native Americans, for Indians, it was extremely valuable. So they didn't realize the true value of those beads.
Exactly. This is one of the first examples in American history of international trade. Well, the poor Manhattan Indians, the native, or I prefer to say the first Americans who lived on the Manhattan Island, for them, they were like, okay, you know, we got lots of land. We'll give you this island. It's sort of far away. And what they really bought, and this is what most Americans don't know, what they really bought was the Dutch as allies. They were trying to make the Dutch happy so they would help them fight some other Native Americans, which was sort of sad. And they did get more than beads, but they didn't get much more than beads. They didn't get much more than beads. So this was the best purchase in the world as far as that. Remember, the Dutch were the first people to settle in New York, and New York used to be called New Amsterdam. Okay. Then when it was conquered by the British people, it changed to New York. So yes, this is balance of trade. How much you get, how much you do. Well, here is a very unfortunate picture. Again, we're talking at governmental level, not at individual levels or banking levels yet any. This is how a country has to deal with the balance of payments, okay? The balance of trade. You can see here we have a scale, a balance. And on one side, we have what are people exporting, what are people importing? Well, sometimes this is a problem, okay? If you want more than you can produce, you end up owing other governments money. Right now, there are a couple of governments who are going around the world, and they are, quote unquote, helping countries by giving them lots of loans for big projects that they will never be able to pay back. So what is a balance of payment? What do you have that the world wants? So for example, I'm here in Saudi Arabia. Nobody wants the sand. Nope, nobody wants the sand, but everybody wants the oil. So they can export oil and they can import everything, almost everything. I actually try really hard to buy all of the food that's locally produced rather than imported, but it's actually pretty hard. So every time I go to the grocery store, I send money to India. Every time the Saudi government sends oil to India, they get money back. And here's the real issue for the balance of payment. It's not what do you need, but what do you want? And most people want a lot more than they actually need. I'm that way too, don't worry. I'm just as greedy as everybody else. Okay, so every country has a balance of payments. And of course, some countries, they have a surplus. Some countries, most countries, have a deficit. Exactly. So, Sophia, what country do you think probably has the most positive balance of payments?
Oh, that is such an excellent question. So I would say Germany, because they have very, very healthy economies, and they count money. So pretty well, and they loan money a lot. So I would assume, but I might be, of course, mistaken. Maybe Japan.
It's actually more complicated than that. It's probably China.
Yeah, sure.
Of course, because if you want to buy something, where is it made?
Yes, you're right.
Everything's made in China.
Yes.
You know, I didn't know until recently that the Chinese made cars. But now here in Saudi Arabia, I'm beginning to see lots of Chinese cars.
We have enormous amount. They will have enormous amount of Chinese cars.
No.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you have the Geely and the
Geely, yes, and some other, yes, and they make them pretty okay. So
yeah, they're pretty okay. That's right. Exactly. So of course that's helping their balance of payments, because for many, many years the Chinese had to import every single car, and that cost them a lot of money. But now they're exporting cars. So this is again the governmental level. It's not really what we're interested in, but it affects our lives considerably, how much things cost. I have friends who live in countries where if you import something like a computer, at the border, you have to pay 100% duty because of the balance of payment. So it's really frustrating things. But let's switch now to banking. Okay, here's another poll for you, ladies and gentlemen. Which country listed here out of these 6 does not have one of the 10 largest banks in the world? One of these countries is very sad, because its banks aren't among the 10 top in the world. Which one do you think it is?
So it means it didn't make to the top 10 largest banks, yes?
Right.
So
in other words, this country, there are 10, I know the 10 largest banks in the world, and which of these countries does not have one of the 10 largest banks in the world?
We also have some people who are voting on YouTube a little bit. So
oh, really?
Little bit, someone writes. So we have Germany, so for now, and we'll see if there are anyone else will write over there. So I
YouTube.
can. Also, another person wrote Germany. There is Anna. So.
Thank you, Anna. Okay.
So we'll see. It's very interesting.
What do you think Tamrika said?
Yeah, everyone is writing Germany actually on YouTube.
Okay? They were writing Germany. Okay, you ready? We've got enough. Okay, let's find out. Let's see. What do you think it's going to be, Sophia?
I actually think it's France.
Oh, that's a good guess. That's a really good guess.
So.
Okay. Which one do you think is right? Oh, look, most people agreed with you. Wow.
Yeah.
That's really interesting, isn't it?
But now, when I have a second thought, I think that they are like in the middle of Europe, and there are so many international organizations are in France. I may be mistaken. So we'll see.
Okay, we'll see. Well, oddly enough, the answer is Germany.
So then Alex, Anna, and one more person, Palladius, are right. It's Germany. So,
right. I was actually surprised at that too, because I always think of Deutsche Bank as a huge bank, but it's not even close to one of the 10 largest banks in the world. Well, before we go on, let's ask a question without official voting. Which country do you think has most 10 top banks in the world?
I would assume USA, but that's my personal view. So
wait,
we will see.
Oh, notice nobody voted that we didn't have one. So everybody pretty much agrees with you. So you think the USA has the biggest share of the 10 top banks in the world?
Yeah, well, at least we hear about them really a lot.
Yeah, that's right.
So
right, exactly.
Citibank, Goldman Sachs, all of them. So
all of those.
Wells Fargo. So.
Oh yeah, well, that's where my mortgage is. So, yes, I'm happy they get lots of my money every month. Well, let's see. Let's go on. Let's look at the 10 top banks in the world. Here's a picture of the 10 top banks in the world. Chase, American, M below that. Mufung. That's a dangerous word to say in English. That's a dangerous word, and that's actually Japanese. Then we have. Now it starts. See the top row next to Chase? 1, 2, 3, 4 in the top row, they are all in China.
And
then
actually, we have
right.
Magomed, who also wrote on YouTube that it's China. Magomed,
Oh,
you're right.
excellent. Thank you. Good guess. Good guess. Yeah, they have 4 of the top 10 banks in the world. The French, this is where it's very interesting, because all of you thought it was France that didn't have 1. They actually have 2 of the top 10 in the world. Okay, both Paribas and Crédit Agricole. And the United States has 2, Chase and Bank of America. And the Brits have 1, HSBC, which I always thought was a Hong Kong bank. So 4 of them are, and numbers 1 through 4 are in China. And that goes back to the balance of payment, right?
Yes.
We said that who's probably got the best balance of payment? China. Now, let's get to the actual banking. What kind of offices would there be in banking? Well, this is the most important for our purposes as simple human beings. This is a correspondent bank. You know, Tamrika used to work with me here in Saudi Arabia. And when we send money to the United States, like every foreign worker in the world, Tamrika, no, not Tamrika. Sophia, do you know the name for the money that people send back home to their own country?
No. So I didn't know that they even had, there's a special name for it.
Oh, yes. So for example, you know, I consider, I don't like the term expat. It's a little racist to me. I'm just a foreign worker. And there are millions of foreign workers around the world, from the Philippines, from Indonesia, from Pakistan, from India, Vietnam, the United States, okay? And when I send money back home, that's called a remittance. I remit the money back to my home country. And many countries, like the Philippines, live from remittances. Their economy really depends on the nurses here in Saudi Arabia, the other people here, to send back much, if not most, of their salary every month to the Philippines. That's called remittances. Okay. And if I want to send back money to the United States, it's a little complicated. The United States is not part of the international banking world as much as you would think it would be. So a correspondent bank, we'll come back and talk about it in just a moment, but it's most important. We have a representative office, not important. Foreign branch, not important. Subsidiary, well, that's obvious. Don't even worry about EDGAX. That's an American bank that can act internationally. And the other important one is offshore banking. We'll come back to that in a moment. So here's the differences. Now, this is where it's really important. This, of course, is from an American point of view. If you have these different types of banks in the United States, and you have certain questions you want to know. Now, the one that, hold on, I have to move. The one that is most important to me is this last one. Remember 2 weeks ago, we talked about FDIC, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. So if you have money in the bank and the bank goes, here's an American expression, the bank goes belly up. Do you all know what belly means?
I would say it's like a fish. When the fish kind of pass away,
Oh,
they turn their belly up and kind of float on the surface, and they are like...
Oh, hasn't every parent has had that nightmare, right? You come home and the fish is floating, belly up, and the little children are just crying. Or I'm crying, one of the two. Okay. So if the bank goes belly up, the FDIC gives you your money back up to a certain amount of money, which I will never have to worry about. But not all of these banks are insured. Yikes. So if you put your money in an offshore banking center and it went belly up, you wouldn't get your money back. You would just lose your money. So that's actually an important thing, is to know what are the benefits and what are the different possibilities for the different types of international banks. Okay. Well, now we get on to international transactions. And of course, this is really important. You all know what IBAN is. Now, if you ask 95, no, why would I ask 95 Americans? If you ask 100 Americans, what is IBAN? They would say, I think it's a type of sunglasses.
Okay. Oh, yes, Ray-Ban.
That's right. Exactly, Ray-Ban. They have no idea what it means because, and this is the bizarre thing, the United States does not use IBAN at all. And I tried to find out the reason why we don't. And every time I would get close, then the answer would be, the United States has decided to use another system. Well, that doesn't tell me anything. I want to know why we won't use IBAN. I'm going to keep looking. Okay, so what does IBAN stand for? And again, this is just like PIN. We always say PIN number, even though PIN means personal identification number. And we always say, what's your IBAN number, even though the N in IBAN means number. And I don't know if you knew, but it's really pretty interesting how the IBANs are created. I do have an IBAN here in Saudi Arabia, exactly. And they have a certain thing that we'll talk about in a little bit. This is what the American system uses for international banking transactions. It's called the SWIFT code. Now, this has nothing to do with Taylor Swift, even though she is the most famous person in America right now. This was not named after her. Indeed, it's the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication. Wow. I like SWIFT a whole lot better. And SWIFT codes are not nearly as efficient as IBANs. IBANs are precise and they're very difficult to get wrong, believe it or not. Remember 2 weeks ago, we talked about if you accidentally put money in someone's account in the United States by maybe you switched, instead of writing 17, you wrote 71, you might not get your money back.
Yes.
Right. But with an IBAN, because of the complex mathematical algorithm it's based on, it's really pretty difficult to make a mistake. Machines check it constantly. And there are special mathematics. Now, I don't know about you all, but for me, mathematics is pretty close to magic. So I could try to explain to you how it's secure, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to tell you that IBAN is really, really secure. SWIFT is not quite as secure. Okay. And of course, which do we use? SWIFT. But inside the United States, and we talked about this last week or 2 weeks ago, we use something called the routing. No, we don't say routing. We always say routing number. It's interesting. In American English, we have two words. We have two pronunciations for the same word, route and route. But we choose the pronunciation sometimes depending on its use. So we always say routing number. And the routing number means the number that helps the money go from one bank account to another bank account. And it was first developed for checks. Remember, we saw a picture of a check? And if you look down in the bottom left-hand corner of the check, you will see the routing number for this particular bank in Huntington. I think that's, I thought it was West Virginia. It might be West Virginia, okay? So every bank has its own routing number. So, but again, it's really easy to make mistakes because it's not an algorithm like the IBAN is. Okay, well, now let's go back to Saudi Arabia. Here I am in Saudi Arabia, and every month I get paid on time, which is really nice, okay? And every month I send money back to the United States, just like a Filipino maid, okay? And it's called a remittance, and it's for my family. I support my family by working here in Saudi Arabia. So I have to send money back every month.
And Charles?
Well, yes.
Sorry, pardon for interrupting you. So, and if IBAN is not used, so, and by the way, it is also not used in Russia, we cannot.
Oh.
Yeah, we are on the same page with United States in this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we can use SWIFT, but it's complicated. So then,
Yes,
Yes, so it's quite complicated. So, and we are the same. Just wanted to kind of jump in and.
Oh, thank you. So, do you have a Russian system that you use?
Well, if we have a very difficult situation if we speak about personal sending of the personal finance. So, for example, we have very complicated currency regulation. So I cannot simply send money from my Russian account to a foreign account to someone. So it's very complicated. I can send it to my international account abroad, but I have to report these to authorities at the end of the year. So it's about this. So, but there must be reason. So you have to pay for some expenses and so on. So you pay taxes. And if you are mix up some, or for example, even if I have an international account abroad, so and I have a card, I go to, for example, I don't know, I am in Greece and I have an international card from Greece and I have an account in Greece, and if I just put the money, I, for example, withdraw them from my Russian card, put them into my Greece card, I am subject to currency regulation. It is illegal, and our participants may correct me. So I might be subject to 100% fine of the sum.
Wow,
Yep.
that's not an unserious crime.
Yeah, so it's very also complicated for Russians. So we use different special systems to transfer money, like. Not PayPal, but PayPal is also banned in Russia, but some other money transfer like Western Union analogs, so very specific.
You still have Western Union?
Yeah, well, I don't even remember, actually I'm not using it. So, and our participants tell me that it's currency control, not currency regulation, but currency control. It's a big and very, very difficult thing. And as you said, remittance, if you have worked abroad, it's extremely difficult to actually transfer money into Russia because you're subject to currency control and taxation, and it's like big thing. Mm-hmm.
Now, that I'm surprised about, because usually most countries are very happy to accept money.
We are special.
Well, I should say so is the United States. Mm-hmm. It's easy to transfer money under $10,000 at a time. If you try to transfer over $10,000 privately, there are so much paperwork to fill out to make sure that you're not supporting certain
anything, yes.
Anything, right? Exactly.
There are so many things we can support, so we can just say that anything.
In fact, they have really good computer programs. So, some people think, oh, well, I'll just send $9,000 3 times. Mm-hmm. But of course, the computer catches that, and then they go, excuse me, we noticed you did this.
Yes.
Okay, now here's the bizarre part. Let me see if this matches what happens in Russia. For most countries, like my friends who work with me here in Saudi Arabia, who are European, they just put in the IBAN number, and nanoseconds later, the money is in Europe, in their account. Okay, but for me, it takes 2 to 3 days because of this correspondent banking. So my bank, Saab, Saudi British Bank, I think it is, Saab, doesn't have any connections with my tiny little bank in Memphis, Tennessee. So my bank has to send the money first to HSBC in New York. They take some money. Mm-hmm. HSBC sends it to a bigger small bank in North Carolina. They take some money. Then the North Carolina bank sends it to my little tiny bank in Memphis, Tennessee. And guess what they do?
Also bite some money or charge some money.
Yes, exactly. Right. Exactly. So, and this is all done, this has to be done not quite, it's done electronically, of course, but it's not automatic. It has to be done by hand. So all of my European colleagues, their money is already well in their bank. And I get a note from my bank that says, on the next banking day, we will manually send your money to America. You can expect it in 3 to 4 days. You're like, okay, fine. So this is called a correspondent banking, when there's not a one-to-one working relationship between your bank and the bank that's trying to send you money. This is very important. And it's also a way for banks to make a lot of money. Okay. Well, so as I said, now, this is interesting. We're going all the way back to the Italian origins of the bank. Remember 2 weeks ago, we talked about banco, meaning table, and we still have some Italian words left in the banking world. So if I have money in my bank, I'm the banker, that belongs to your bank, it's called a Vostro account, which is simply, it's the same thing in Russian, right? It means yours, yours, right? So it's your account, but it's in my bank. And of course, the opposite would be if somebody has my money in Dubai and they're holding on to it, then it's a nostro, our account. But unfortunately, that's not the same in Russian. What is it, me?
And actually, the Vostro is also, I might be mistaken, but I've never heard about it, so it might be.
Oh, no, it's not very common. No, I just meant the word for you is pretty much the same. Because it's just like all of the Indo-European languages.
But this is so complicated, at least for me. I've never heard of these terms, honestly.
And there's no reason for you to. It's just interesting that in a bank, there are accounts from other banks.
Yes. Called in Italian, which is dates back to like 14th century.
Oh, it's exactly the 14th century, exactly. And of course, with every time it moves from one bank to another bank in that chain, they take money. So for example, the last bit, the one that I see, when the money finally shows up in my little tiny credit union, which is barely a bank in the United States, right below the amount that I get from my Saudi transfer, there's always $15, wire transfer received. So they charge me $15 to get money. I never understand that. Okay. Well, now we're going to start again, our next poll. Now we get to talk about fraud, laundering, and all sorts of bad things. Okay. So which of these countries do you think of first when you think of a tax haven or a secret bank account? Which country do you think of first? There's no right answer. There's no right answer. I just want to see what everybody thinks.
And while we're waiting for the voting, can I ask you one question? Because
you can ask me
this question
several.
has popped up. Why one of our participants is asking actually on Telegram. So why in Russia we call bank fees bank commissions? And a lot of people think that it's basically a commission that you take for some action. So it isn't in Russian, and very often people try to translate it as bank commission, but everyone is using the word fees. So any idea why it's not a commission?
Yes. Okay. When we say commission, so for example, if you we're going to be talking about this in a moment. If you exchange money, you want to find out what percent the commission is.
Yes.
Okay. A fee is usually, now again, this is not quite absolutely 100% true, but it's easier to remember. A commission is sort of based on a percentage. So if you transfer $100 and it's a 3% commission, that'll be $3. And or 1,000, it will be $30. You can also use commission when you're working. So for example, if you sell a new account and that account is worth $1,000 and your commission rate is 10%, you would get $100. So it varies. So commission is often seen as a percentage, not always, but usually as a percentage. So we often say, do you work on a commission or a salary?
Okay.
As a professor, I work on a salary. In other words, I don't get extra money for every person I fail. No, although I wish I did. Okay, so that would be a commission if you got a percentage of what you were doing. A fee, on the other hand, is just absolutely predictable. You know how much it's going to be. So for example, a fee that you might not think of, if I want to send, I teach a program in the Czech Republic every summer in how to be an English teacher. And I often take students from Memphis, Tennessee with me. And we have to send money, a deposit, for their places in the Czech Republic every summer. So I gather up the money, I take it to my bank, I give them the information, and then I have to pay my bank $50 to send that money.
And it's fixed.
And it's fixed. So if I send them $20, still $50. If I send them, well, probably not. If I send them $10,000, it's still $50. So that's a fixed fee.
That's a difference, because in Russia, when you're transferring money, very often it's based on percentage. That's why and we automatically translate it as bank commission. So
okay. And if it's based on a percentage, then you might actually want to transfer it as commission.
Okay.
If it's fixed, then you would want to transfer it. You would want to translate it as fee. But again, remember, that's the general rule.
Okay.
There might be. That's a really good question. I like that. Thank you. Exactly. Okay, so let's see 32. Oh, I guess we should. Let's see. Sophia, which country do you think of when you think of tax haven or secret bank
I actually
accounts?
think about Cayman Island, and we have several people who also wrote on YouTube that Dmitry thinks it's Belize, Tatiana, Alexander, and another Alexander thinking that's Cayman Island. Also, some Alex think it's Switzerland, and Magomed think it's Cyprus, which is not
Cyprus. I didn't even put Cyprus on it.
Yeah, but
okay. One small thing, in the United States, we say the Cayman Islands.
Cayman.
But that's not correct. That's just what we say in the United States. Okay.
Yeah.
And do you know what a caiman is?
I thought it's like a crocodile.
I am always impressed. That's exactly right. It's like a small, sort of delicate crocodile. It won't eat you. Okay. So let's see what people said. Closing. Look. Oh, you guys must have read a lot of
Offshore.
John
Grisham. Yeah.
That's right. You've read a lot of John Grisham.
Yes.
He always has people go to the Cayman Islands.
Yes, and it's so like fictional, because how can it happen that the person at the end of the book, being very sensible, suddenly throws all the credit cards and goes to Cayman Island? It's always like this. It's always, and it's like, come on, I never believe this.
I always think it's so funny too. Actually, for a long time, the Cayman Islands was the only international flight that we had in Memphis, because it's also a really important vacation spot for people in the American South, or it was. Okay, so the Cayman Island, I've never been there. Nope, I've never been there. Okay, I was really surprised how many people put Belize. You guys know a lot more about tax havens than I did. Okay. And of course, Germany, no. The last thing you want is to try to hide money in Germany. Okay. Singapore, yes, you can hide money. And interestingly enough, the Channel Islands is where the term offshore came from in English. How do you say offshore banks in Russian?
Just literally, we also say offshore.
Oh, okay. So the first offshore banks were on the Channel Islands, off the shore of the United Kingdom. Okay. But of course, Liechtenstein and Switzerland are offshore, but they're not offshore. Okay. And of course, Switzerland is famous for its numbered bank accounts. Well, they've changed. Switzerland and Liechtenstein are trying harder to be less nefarious, which is a great word, secret and everything. But the Cayman Islands is what I would have said too. Belize is becoming very important, and I'm really impressed that everybody knew that. So tax haven, that's pretty neutral. I like the idea of a tax haven. That sounds nice. But secret bank account, that's not so much. Well, so what is best offshore? Okay. Offshore is a special kind of bank that can't bank where it's located. That sounds difficult. So in other words, if you open up a bank in the Cayman Islands, you can't be a regular Cayman Islands bank. You can only deal with international stuff. Okay. And what's nice about this? Well, they usually have very low tax rates. They're often very easy to open. They have a very small initial deposit. But you also have to consider, are they politically safe? Now, which is the safest of the four we've got here? Singapore, Switzerland, Cayman Islands, and Belize. Switzerland, obviously. They've been there forever. They're forever. Do you have that? Stereotype of the Swiss banker who never says a word?
Yes, especially after reading Dan Brown, all of these stories, and but it's changing. They have to disclose so much information now, so I think their image is shifting.
Yeah, their image is shifting. It's no longer the gnomes of Zurich who hide away everything. Exactly. So, but Singapore also, it's actually one of the easiest countries in the world to do business in. And of course, that's a really important thing. How easy is it for a foreigner to do business? Do you even have to go there to open up the bank account? Well, but when we often think of offshore, we think of tax havens, numbered accounts, secrets.
Yes.
And of course, there have been a couple of really fun, because I wasn't involved, it was fun, exposés. Do you use the same word in Russian, exposé?
Actually, so we have expo, so.
Oh, it's related to expo.
Yeah.
So, but expo is something fun that you want to show, but exposé means something naughty, something bad that suddenly becomes public. So the Panama Papers, the Paradise Papers, when those were exposés, and many people in Europe were in a lot of trouble because they had been hiding millions and millions of euros. Exactly. So secrets. Well, offshore bank. Okay, now they also can be a way to avoid taxes, which is really sort of interesting. You all know Nike. Everybody, and it's Nike. We say, what do you say? Do you say Nike or Nike?
We say Nike. Nike.
I thought so.
So we never say Nike, and it's very strange for us when we hear it, because but it's cute.
It's cute. I like that. It's cute. Exactly, it's cute. So Nike, of course, is an international corporation. Oddly enough, they don't have their own factories. They actually have shoes made for them in Vietnam, Thailand, and other places like that. Okay. But what they do is then sell those shoes all around the world, Okay. Now, the money then goes, I would have thought it would have gone to the United States, but they set up a very, very clever arrangement with the Dutch government, which happens with big corporations. And so all of the money goes into Nike's headquarters in the Netherlands. Okay. And of course, as you can see from the chart, revenues, how much money you brought in, how much money did it cost to produce it. Then you have the net profit, and you have the taxable income, and you've got the tax paid. Okay. So no problem. So it ate away, 25% of the net profit. But the very clever people at Nike set up an offshore account. It used to be in Bermuda. Now it's literally nowhere. And what they do is they charge Nike to use Nike.
Excellent.
Isn't it? It's wonderful, wonderful. And you can see in number 2, so we have the same revenues, we have the same costs, but notice the costs have now doubled. And this hatched here, payments to subsidiary, this is literally what Nike charges Nike to use Nike, intellectual property. And as a result, their net profit is much less, and the tax paid is much, much less. So this is a way in which very big corporations can pay very small amounts of taxes. It's very clever. I don't know if it's ethical, but that's not my issue. Okay, right. Well, let's go back to being just a human being. We're no longer Nike. We're not a huge bank. We're just somebody who wants to go on a vacation. And we're going to some place that uses a different currency from what we want. So let's explore how we get currency. You've all seen these. You've all seen these tablets everywhere you go, the exchange rate. And it's got buy and sell. This happens to be one for the Australian dollar. I've never been to Australia, so it's on my list. But not this week, obviously. Okay, but someday I want to go to Australia, and I will see this. So I have dollars. Well, okay, buy and sell. Well, now we obviously know that the bank is going to make money both ways. Both ways. When they sell me Australian dollars, when they sell me Australian dollars, for every American dollar, they're going to give me $1.37 Australians, $1.37 for every American dollar I give them. On the other hand, if I'm an Australian and I want to buy Australia, and I want to buy American dollars, you're buying from the bank, and you would have to give the bank a 1.67 Australian dollars to get 1 American dollar. And this difference between this number and this number is called the spread. The spread.
Not the margin. Not the premium, not the margin, but the spread, yes?
Oh, it's also called margin.
Uh-huh.
I've just called it, many people call it spread, but you can also call it the margin, and playing the margins. Yes, exactly. That's great, Sophie. That's an excellent. So now, a lot of people make money just transferring money. It's called Forex, foreign exchange. And there are special currency. They're like stock markets, but they're just for money, and you can change money every day. And we're going to talk about the most famous example ever of somebody who made a whole lot of money just changing money. Okay, so you can see the difference. All right, so how do you get more money? Well, since many of you guys are English teachers, I thought I would just do a little quick math lesson for you, because I have spent many times with friends trying to explain to them, okay, you gave me 10 American dollars. This is how much you're going to get back. So right now, the dollar is very strong against the euro. Okay, so this means that if you want to buy a euro, 1 euro, it will take you $1.05. At its highest, what was that, 2008, I think? At its highest, it would take $1.60 to buy 1 euro.
I remember it.
You remember it. A cup of coffee was really expensive. Mm-hmm. Right. Not that it's cheap now, but it's much cheaper. So Sophie, are you good at math?
I'm horrible. Please don't do this to me.
I'm not. Don't worry. I'm not that mean. Oh, I know. It's so, oh, most people who are so good at languages, unfortunately, you would think they'd be good at math, but they're not. Okay. So, well, here's a little rule for you. When you look at that, then you remember if you're going to the right, in other words, from euros to dollars, all you have to do is A, find a calculator, because I can't do this in my head anymore, and multiply whatever you've got by that number, 105. Okay, so when I give you my euro, how many dollars are you going to give me?
$1.05.
You're brilliant. See, you're really good at math.
I usually use a currency converter on my phone because when you travel, we have to always exchange money. So for Russians, it's so we always have to exchange Russian money wherever we go. So that's why we are used to buying and selling.
You're used to it, right?
Yes. So
it's interesting how many places don't accept American dollars and how many places that you don't expect do. You know, there are several countries that use the American dollar as their currency.
I don't remember
which is sort of interesting.
Yeah, but this is cool. So I remember much more shocked when I was in Sweden, and there are a lot of places which just don't accept cash. So they just have a note like no cash at all. So to me, being from Russia, it's very weird. And sometimes when you travel to some other country, when we travel, we sometimes find out which currency is it better to bring with us, either euros or dollars. So because some countries are more kind of preferring this or that currency. So it's
and that's exactly right. You have to know which one do you take. And do you have that issue if you're taking cash, which you might have to, from a economic point of view, if you can use your ATM card to pull money out of a bank, you get a much better rate than if you take cash. Cash is the least effective way to get foreign money, unfortunately. But you can't always do that. And there aren't ATM machines everywhere, of course. So, well, now, all right, so I want euros. So I have to go the other way. I want to give you $100. So instead of multiplying, you will divide by that number. So you take $1 divided by a 1.05. And how much money will that nice man in the window give me? 95 cents. Okay, so this way, that way. Multiply right, divide left, and you'll figure it out. But you're right, Sophie. Most of the time, we just use our little calculator and hope for the best. Right, exactly. Okay, now this is when you have to mind the spread because, you know, it can be really expensive. So, for example, if I have extra reals here and I exchange them at the currency exchange shop at the airport on my way to the United States, I don't get a very good rate. Oh, no, not at all. And here's an interesting fact for your things. It's almost impossible to get foreign currency in most places in the United States.
Yes, that's all I know. Yes, I know. Yeah.
I know. It actually takes days. You have to go to a special main branch of a bank, and then they have to send away for it. And it will come back. And of course, they can only get major currencies. So it's the same thing. That's the one good thing about having dollars is they're accepted most places.
Almost everywhere,
right.
Yeah.
Well, we've been talking about making money, and we've been talking about currency exchange. And I mentioned that there are people who make their money simply by exchanging money back and forth because of the spread, of course. So there's a really famous case from 1992, and it was breaking the Bank of England. Okay. The English, of course, still use the pound for many years, the pound was, people said, artificially high. All right. And this man knew that the British government couldn't keep it high for a long time anymore. So in 1992, he borrowed billions of dollars. I wish I could borrow billions of dollars. He borrowed all of this money. Now, does everybody in Russia know who George Soros is?
Yes, he's very famous. Well, mostly he's famous because we have a lot of programs, especially in 1990s, 2000s, which were funded by Soros Foundation. And the enormous people I know personally traveled on exchange programs. And so he's very known.
Oh, the Open Society Foundation. Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
My sister, who is also an English teacher, in 1991, spent a year in a small village in then Czechoslovakia, right on the Polish border, teaching English. It was a beautiful experience for her, and she was so happy. And that was funded by George Soros. Okay, so yeah, he did a lot of things. Oh, here is a trivia question about George Soros that most people don't know. What do you think George Soros's native first language is?
I honestly have no idea, but we can wait for our participants.
Yeah. Let's see if anybody knows. This is a very strange thing. Mm-hmm. He's from Hungary originally. Mm-hmm. That's what Soros.
Yes, Hungarian. We have several people who are writing. Thank you very much, Alexandra.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. That's the most obvious guess. His native language is Esperanto.
Oh, are you serious? So really?
I'm serious. Serious.
Esperanto, which is artificial language.
Right.
So how it can be native?
Because there were a lot of, especially liberal people, socialist people, who wanted to make it the world's international language. And they got married, and they would start changing the artificial language into a native language. If you've ever studied pidgins and creoles, so basically Esperanto went from an artificial language to a creole. And the kids who speak Esperanto natively, and there are not too many, there are a few, they don't speak it quite the same way that their parents did, because they've changed it. So officially his first language was Esperanto because of his parents. But then he, of course, knew everything else. Well, so what did he do? How did he make $1 billion in 1 month? He did something called short selling. Now, you think, wait a minute, we're not talking about the stock market, but even in currency, we can do short selling. Do you have an idea of what short selling is, Sophia?
Yes. Well, I might be mistaken again. So as I understand that you can sort of, there is some period within which if you buy something, you have to pay like in 3 days. So I might be mistaken. You speak about shares.
No, you've got it. You got it.
And so you can sell and then quickly buy or do the vice versa stuff. But I don't remember how it's called, either redemption date or something like this of payment, you basically already got rid of all the money. So it's something like this.
You impress me every week, Sophia. Just impress me amazingly. Exactly. And this is exactly what you said is exactly right. So George Soros borrowed billions of dollars because he didn't pay for them. He borrowed them. And he said, hi, can I have a few $1 billion for about a month? Thank you very much. I'll pay you back all these billions of dollars in a month. And so the people knew him because they thought, he's going to have to pay us back just a little bit more than he borrowed. So they borrowed, let's say he borrowed $5 billion. I don't remember how many. And each of those pounds that he borrowed. I said dollars, didn't I? He borrowed pounds. He borrowed 10 billion pounds or something like that. And each of the pounds cost so many German marks. At the time, I think it was about 3 marks to the pound. Okay. But he knew that if he then redeemed those, it would cause the Bank of England, which isn't really a bank, it's sort of like a central bank, to actually fall, and the exchange rate would collapse. So he borrowed, let's say 10 billion pounds at 3 German marks a pound. He took them to the bank and said, give me some money. That caused the exchange rate to collapse. At this point, the English pound is worth, I'm making this number up, 2 German marks. Now he's got all this money and he can buy 10 billion pounds, not for 30 billion marks, but for 20 billion marks. He takes them back to the man he borrowed them from, and he says, here's your money. And here's a little bit too, a little fee or a commission. And he kept $1 billion for himself. Phenomenal. Just one of the fastest billionaire things in history. It's a great thing. And it was not about stocks. It was about currency.
And it was legal. Yes, that's the whole idea, that he made it legally. He basically manipulated the market. The only question I have, how did he know that this exactly, so it was some insider dealing, or maybe he was just aware?
No, it was completely legal.
It was completely legal. Mm-hmm.
He gathered so much data. What's really interesting is today he looks back on it and he says, I should not have done that. It wasn't quite ethical. It was legal, but it wasn't ethical. And that's a big difference. I have that with my law students all the time. We have this, is every law ethical? Of course not, but they always think it is. Okay. So just because it's legal doesn't make it good. And he now says, I should not have done that. It wasn't really the ethical thing to do, because a lot of people got hurt. When the Bank of England collapsed. They lost lots of money, and he gained it. Okay? So, well, now when we talk about exchange rates, we also have to talk about black market, or the euphemism is the parallel. Did I spell parallel right? Yeah, that's right. That's one of those words I can never get right. The parallel. See the picture there? That is in Nigeria. And this is from an official Nigerian newspaper, not official, but a semi-government official paper. And every day in the official or semi-official newspaper in Nigeria, they publish the black market rate for the Nigerian currency. And the first time I saw that, I was just laughing. I thought, that's really pretty clever. It's like, they know it exists, so they're just going to make it as overt as possible. Now, there's an official rate and there's a black market rate. Usually there's only a black market rate if the economy is artificially maintained. So we go back in my history. I was teaching in Prague in Czechoslovakia in 1989, and I got paid in American dollars. Actually, the organization that Tamrika is working with was the one that paid me in 1989. And so I got paid in American dollars. And if I exchanged those American dollars for official rate, I would get 10 Czech crowns for an American dollar. But if I went to certain cafes, or I went to the Vietnamese who lived in the medical school dormitory, and I gave them my dollars, how many Czech crowns do you think I got on the black market for a dollar?
From 12 to 15.
Ooh, you are a very considerate person. I got 40.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, right. So I can assure you, I never exchanged money legally.
But we had this situation in 1990s in Russia a lot.
Yes.
And a lot of people who works, so you had to know the person, because there were so many people who got, there were frauds when you go to some, just in the street, and they would, I know personally a friend of a student that I was studying together with, she wanted to exchange some dollars. It was 1999 and 2000, which was, and I remember that she got, instead of banknotes, one banknote and the pieces of paper.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Oh, it wasn't even banknotes? It was just...
No, it was just somehow they tricked her. It was in the street, and and that's why, that might be a problem. So, but it's such an appealing rate, so everyone would like to go, to do.
It happened to me a couple of times when people tried to scam me in during that time. Very quickly after the revolution, it was no longer worthwhile to be on the black market, and the official rate fell to about 25, and so it made it safe. Yeah, once I was in the street and this guy was trying to give me something, and I was like, that's not Czech money, that's Bulgarian money. And so it was like 100 lev or whatever Bulgarian was like the same as 1 Czech crown. So he was trying to give me nothing for what I was going to give him in American dollars. And I said, that's not Czech money. And then it was really funny, because right then another guy came up and said, police, what are you trying to do? And I said, nothing. We haven't done anything yet. And it was a fake policeman who was working with the guy, and he was going to take my American dollars
to check
and keep them. And I would have gotten nothing. But fortunately, it didn't happen. But you're right, it did happen to many, many people. And so, of course, now we tell people, don't do it. There's no reason to. Even today in Prague, some people still stand around outside the currency exchange booths and say, change money, change money. But it's silly. They're all criminals. All right, so how do we exchange money? Well, let's say we want to go on a vacation to Bali. Bali's in Indonesia. So we need to exchange our rupees. No. We need to exchange our euros to rupees. Look at those numbers. 20,000, 50,000, 100,000. Wow. Whoever it is really rich. You could be a millionaire very quickly. All you need is 10 of those down at the bottom and you'd be a millionaire. Okay. So how do you do this? You look at the Forex, foreign exchange. You look at the base, €1. We've done this before. We're doing it again. And you quote, how many rupees do I get for $1? €1. You got any idea how many rupees there are to the dollar?
No, I have no idea.
Nobody would know. Why would you? There's no reason to. There's absolutely, unless you had just gotten back from Indonesia or Bali, there's no reason to. The answer is
lots. I like it.
It'll just lots. So €1 equals 16,380.98 rupias. Oh, I misspelled it. Rupias. Okay. That's a lot of things. So if you remember, it was how much? 16,000. So see the 20,000 guy with the guy wearing the guy without the hat, the 20,000, that's slightly more than $1.
Yeah.
So you need lots of money if you're going to buy stuff there, or lots of pieces. Well, now we're going to play a little game. Okay. Slang names for money. Okay. Let's see.
I like it.
Oh, good. What's the slang name for $1 bill?
I had this word in my head. So let's ask our
ask our friends.
Because I remember, but I want to keep it. So we will just ask
keep it. But I know you know it. So what do our friends say?
Oh, greens and bucks.
Oh, they're so.
Yes,
really interesting. There is a generational difference there.
and there's also a bone for some reason. A bone, yes.
Oh, somebody's been reading some really interesting literature.
It's Magomed, yes. So,
Okay, yeah. Bone is a very, very unusual, but sometimes used. But most Americans have never heard it. Bone. But buck is the most common. Can you lend me $5? Okay.
why?
And
why
what
it
is a buck?
used? Yes. What is?
I'm
wait,
sorry?
What is a buck then? So.
A buck is a male deer.
And how in the world it is related to American dollars? So.
I have no idea, but that will be my mission for the next 2 weeks, to find out why is it the buck. Now the next ones I actually know, but this one is like, now somebody put green. They were half right. There is a very now older term that we don't use so much anymore called the greenback. And why? What's the difference? In America, what color is money?
Green, yes.
All of it is green. All money is green. Okay, so greenback means money in a sense. Now, remember at the beginning of the thing, you said you didn't quite know what the title of this presentation, Show Me the Money, meant. Okay, that is a thing where it's like put up or shut up. Do you know that one maybe?
Yes.
Put up or shut up, right? Well, show me the money. If somebody comes up to you and says, oh, I can make you a star, I can make you famous, you say, show me the money. Which means I'm not doing anything until I see real green money.
Yeah.
And it comes from, it was especially made really, really famous by a Tom Cruise movie from the 1980s. And that was the name of the movie. John, that was the name of the movie, right? Jerry Maguire, thank you. Thank God I have an expert next to me. Oh, by the way, Tamrika, John says to say hello to you. Okay. So it was called Jerry Maguire, about a very famous athletic. He was an agent for very good athletes, and they would always say, "Show me the money. How much you going to get for me?" Okay, so green. So greenback is literally related to that. Well, that's good, and it's buck. Again, I have no idea why it's a male deer. Let's see if you know this one. What is the slang name for a Canadian dollar coin? They use those. We don't use dollar coins in America. We still have dollar bills. We keep trying to have a dollar coin, but it just doesn't work.
Yeah, you have
American
cents, like 20,
Right.
a quarter, which is very... Okay,
Right.
so actually Marusia says that it's loony.
Wow, I'm impressed.
Yes,
I'm impressed.
I know it's a bird, but I've never heard that it can be so loony. So congratulations, Marusia, because like that is so new. So
and there's
amazing.
the loon. This is the loon. This is very Canadian. Okay, so on the $1, there's the picture of the common loon, and of course, this is where the word loony sort of comes from. The word loony, like crazy, actually has two meanings. It means to sound like this bird, which makes a really horrible sound. It sounds crazy, but it also comes from luna, the moon. And you know how people were lunatics?
Yes.
Because of the moon. So it's a loony. Thank you. That I'm impressed that someone knew that. That's really impressive. Really impressive. Well, what about a $2 Canadian coin?
You are killing us, because Canada is really so far away from us. And we never hear any news from Canada. We know only their very handsome Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau.
Oh.
That's all. That's the only thing that is kind of discussed, honestly. Okay, but we have actually, and Marusia also answers. So she says that it's either toonie.
Exactly. Marisha, thank you. I'm impressed. She must have lived in Canada, or she's just really knowledgeable about money. Okay. And it's called a toonie because it's two loons. But there's no picture of a loon on the two. So you got a loony and a toonie. Okay, good. Right. So, well, if you're doing Forex, there are certain trades that are very common, and they sometimes have funny names. This one's not funny, but I like this one. If you're exchanging dollars for Swiss francs, CHF, you say, hey, I want to do a dollar Swissy. Okay.
Oh my.
Or Canada, now we get to loons again, dollar loony. Otherwise, you'd have to say dollar, and we get really confusing. Aussie dollar. And if you live in New Zealand, where they use the dollar too, it'd be a Kiwi dollar. You all know what Kiwi are? They're two things.
Yes, I know it's a bird, and
that's right.
It's the
national
fruit.
Bird.
Yeah,
and the fruit. Right,
yeah.
Exactly. Okay. Well, now, how did we get our money? Well, you can go to the ATM. Here we have a beautiful.
It's an amazing picture.
Isn't that beautiful? And that's from the Bank of America, one of the largest banks in the United States. And it was like, you don't know where you're going to find an ATM. But we talked about this 2 weeks ago about not using ATMs that are just in the middle of nowhere, because you never know. But when I was a kid, we didn't have ATMs, and you had to go to the money booths. And notice here it says money exchange, no commission, because that's a percentage and everything. We all know today that the money booths don't give you nearly the same rate that the ATM does. So if at all possible, use an ATM, okay? So currency exchange booth, if there's no other choice. A bank, it's better than a booth. For example, in Prague, the most common complaint for the tourism police is the seemingly cheating that the currency exchange booths do. But again, everything they do is legal, but it's really not ethical. They say no commission, highest rates, and then they don't take commissions, they take fees. Nice difference in the word there, right? And they charge you a huge fee for changing the money, but not a commission. So that's a perfect way to use both words. And of course, ATMs. Okay, now, this is a trick for your next traveling if you get out of the country. There is a new way that's legal in much of the world to cheat customers legally. Again, it's another legal cheating. So if you go to an ATM and it says, hey, I can tell you exactly how much money I'm going to take out of your bank account. Because whenever you go and you take out, let's say you take out 100 pounds, you really don't know how much money that's going to be when you open up your bank account. Well, there is a new process called, we'll see what it's called, and they will say, hey, we'll change the money for you right here. And here's the exchange rate, and this is what you'll get. So out of your bank will come $141.66. Wow, that sounds good. So you know exactly how much it is. So you push this little button that says continue with the conversion, and you're very happy. Or you say, no, thank you. Just send that to my bank and let them convert it. So which one do you think is the best to do? Which one is always the better
Without
choice?
Conversion.
Absolutely.
I had experienced this. There is a chain of ATMs around Europe, which are, I even Googled them, and they charge 15 to 20% of the amount. Yes,
Euro net or something?
Mm-hmm. Yes, Euro net. Yes, they're just kind of really. And
in Europe, look for something that says bankomat and not ATM. A bankomat is connected to a bank, whereas an ATM is usually connected to one of those horrible, horrible services that charges you so much money, right? And this is called dynamic currency conversion. Well, now, it might only be 2 or 3% difference, but if you're talking about a lot of money, it's a lot of money, 2 or 3%. And usually, as you mentioned, Euronet and the others charge 10 to 15 to 20%. It's disgusting. But is it legal?
It is, because people press the button themselves. Well,
Yes.
technically, they're not able to read the rules of this
Right.
conversion. So that's maybe one tricky thing. But still, it's kind of, I never know anyone who would actually, well, personally, maybe people do kind of process or pursue this case. I would say not process, but pursue the case and try to get the money. But I remember stopped a couple of people who I saw were approaching those ATMs. I literally, because, I know that they looked desperate, they needed some money, and they were like running to this Euronet. I'm like, it's better to go around the corner because there is a bank and there is a much better option. So, because I got into a trap. And can I ask you a question? We have,
Of course.
my personal question, because after having taught English, legal, finance, and so on, so mostly legal, I have noticed a very interesting thing. Usually professionals who are lawyers or professionals who are auditors or any finance people, everything is about money. The whole business is about money, but it's considered to be not okay for a professional to use the word money.
Oh,
So
no, never.
never. So if someone says, where is my money? Or show me the money. So, well, not show me the money, but where is my money? It's usually a client who is not professional, who is a lay person. And there are so many words that are used for money. So a lawyer would not say, I don't know, money. They would say funds, finance, fees, revenue, turnover, I don't know, proceeds, outlay, overheads, costs, expenses, but never the word money. Why it is so? So is there any reason for it?
Yes, it's exactly the same reason we say attorney rather than lawyer. It sounds better. It's pure and simple attempt to make it sound more elegant, to make it sound more professional. So, would you trust somebody? I've got $10,000 I want to invest, and somebody walks up and says, "Hey, give me your money, and I can make a bunch of bucks for you."
Some people
No.
trust. Some people trust.
Oh, some people do, exactly. But somebody in a nice three-piece suit that costs more money than I make a month, and he says, with these funds, we can probably do something dynamic so that your income will double within the next 10 years.
And
you'll have
raise
access.
some return, some substantial return or something like this.
So
Okay.
exactly. So it's a matter of, in linguistics, we use the word register, meaning style, level of formality. So money is low, buck is even lower, and then you can even get lower than that. What's the most common slang word in Russian for the ruble?
Oh, it's actually wooden.
Really?
Yes, so it's like деревянный. So in which what you are paying in wooden. So it's like, so I don't know. So it's just the expression, and actually the dollar is green. So ruble. So it's like slang. So
Wooden. Oh, I like that. There's an old English idiom that doesn't make any sense anymore, which was "don't take any wooden nickels."
Oh.
Which was, there was a period when people didn't have enough metal, so they made nickels out of wood, but they were valueless. I would like it. So you come up and you say, "Oh, that's going to be about 10 wooden."
Yes, but we used to use it. Now it's not that anymore, but in 1990s and the beginning of 2000s, we used to. Like, in which currency you are paying? Because there was a period in Russia when, for example, we had very high inflation, even now, but we used to have extremely high inflation. And for example, we officially had the announcements for sale of property, and the prices were in American dollars. And you could even take out a mortgage in American dollars or in euros. So, and Oh, and by the way, I have some of the viewers who are hinting me that actually the word ruble comes from the Russian word to kind of cut wood, to chop wood.
No.
So it comes from this. So yes, thank you very much, Marina. Oh, Marina Mayakina, hello. That's
Hi,
my
Marina.
colleague
yes?
from Ivanova State University. So
Well, tell her for that great etymology. Of course, I'm obsessed with those beautiful etymologies about things. I love those stories.
Yeah.
So
and Charles, we have to finish up. So the time is it's already 9 o'clock.
Oh my gosh. Okay, then let me go on to. We'll as usual. We won't get to everything we wanted to. I did want to do a quick commercial for Tamrika. Okay. There are still scholarships available for online English classes at the American Language Center. And this will be, of course, inside. You can find this information. And but it's only for certain groups. You have to be a university student. You have to be an English teacher who's relatively new or still getting trained. Or, and this is the part I hate, you can only be a young adult between 18 and 35. I was thinking I could apply twice since I'm 70. That's 2 adults at 35 each.
And I'm over 35. I'm never eligible as well. So it's like.
Well, this is going to be in the slideshow, of course. So please do think about this. These are some great opportunities. Yeah. This is completely online and it's intensive, and it's my favorite word, free. All right. So now we'll come back to this next week in 2 weeks. Okay. What we were going to do, we were going to talk about crypto, but I do want to end with this pretty lady. Okay. And this is how dangerous currency can be. This is Ruja Ignatova. She was born in Bulgaria. And do you notice that she is one of the FBI 10 most wanted fugitives? What do you think she's got to do with money? Did she rob a bank? Nope. That was her in 2015, okay? She created a scam cryptocurrency called OneCoin, and she stole millions and millions of dollars from people. And there's even, this is actually sort of be fun for you to do, is to go and listen to the BBC podcast, The Missing Crypto Queen, about her success and running away. They can't find her. And she's a lawyer, but she's missing. Nobody knows where she is. I bet she's in the Cayman Islands.
Yes.
What?
She's a smart lawyer. So
she's
in the
a
Caribbean.
Yeah, she's in the Caribbean somewhere, right? Okay, so, all right, our last thing, we're going to quickly end with this. Which of these terms do you think? Oh, oops, I think I closed it. Did I open it or close it?
You opened, now it's open. It's
good.
Yes, it's open. It's
Okay,
open and pop.
Great. Okay, so which one of these terms do you remember the best?
Oh, I like the last one that you put.
I do too. When I think of money, that's what I always think of. There's always a fugitive.
Okay. All right.
I lived in China for several years, and I lived in a city that's now very, very important. But at the time, it was a very wild city. This was 20 some years ago. And literally, I would run into people with suitcases full of American dollars. And I would be like, whoa. Okay, here we go. Let's close this and let's see. What do people remember most? What do they look like? Oh, good. Swift course. Wow. Oh, I was hoping they'd go for fugitive. All right, so today we have talked about international transactions. We've talked about different types of banks. We've talked about schemes that banks use to try to to squeeze a little bit more money out of us when we travel. We were going to talk about cryptocurrencies, which are very important today. And we ended with a very, very wonderful fugitive who is in hiding probably in the Cayman Islands today. So it's once again time to say thank you all so much. And Sophia, thank you so much. And thank Raman for me also. And Tamrika, if you're still there, thank you. So good seeing you all. See you in 2 weeks.
See you in 2 weeks.
Bye, Tamrika.
Yes, and we are actually in 2 weeks on the 21st of December, we're going to have our final webinar. I cannot even believe it. So it will be the number 6, and we are going to speak about stocks and shares.
Stocks and shares.
Yes, very interesting
Stocks
topic.
and bonds, exactly,
Bonds,
right.
yes. And we are looking forward to it. And after that, so I just want to tell you before, like a small, not warning, but just a notice that everyone, to the participants, that after the last webinar, then on there will be several days when everyone will be able to do online test. So we will put it online. We will make up questions based on the webinars and based on the presentations. It's to encourage you, of course, to rewatch the presentations, and you will have 2 days to complete the online questionnaire. And based on this questionnaire, if you are successful, and we are very positive that you will be successful, you will be issued a certificate, a free certificate from the Regional English Language Office in PDF. In PDF, we will send it personally. So last time we had a huge amount of people. We had 990 people who took the test. So it was a huge amount. Yes, I know, it's you know, Charles, and 903, I know personally the numbers because I was, so they got rewarded the certificate. We had to actually use a special system for issuing certificates because there were too many of them. So, and we will have not open-ended questions, there will be multiple choice. And as I said, it's very relaxing. So it will be just 2 days, you can rewatch, so there will be no like, so it will be very relaxing, and you have the time to kind of revise everything. So, and Charles, we're looking forward to our last webinar, and thank you so much. You were brilliant, as usual.
As usual, I couldn't do it without you. You know, you make it so much more fun. And of course, it was wonderful having our special guest tonight, Tamrika.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes,
Good.
thanks to her.
Thank everyone.
I learned Tamrika.
Charles, I learned so much.
Yes.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye, everyone, and see you in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.
Can you stay for a moment, Tamrika? Thank you.